Hello everyone, my name is Denise and today I'll be talking about the topic of Christian detachment. So before we can talk about detachment, it's important to first talk about attachment. So what is attachment? Attachment would be an over preoccupation to something that brings you joy, I would suppose. Yes. So first, to understand that, you must understand that there's this concept of a God-shaped hole in your heart. All of us have it, a small little God-shaped hole, cuts across time, cuts across culture, but I think mostly the Christians talk about it. So this hole is meant for God to fill, like Saint Augustine says, our hearts are restless until it rests in thee, and yet having this hole, frankly speaking, sucks because it gives us this emptiness, this very uncomfortable feeling. So we tend to stuff things in. Like, what do we stuff in? We tend to stuff wealth, power, pleasure, and honor. You see point 4? Yeah, these are the 4 key substitutes for God. And I think when is the best time for you to examine what is your substitute? I think it is the time just before you fall asleep, when you're lying in bed. That is the best time. What do you draw comfort from that will allow you to sleep? Some people, they think about their giant bank account that is growing and getting interest every day, getting bigger and bigger. And in the comfort of their wealth, they fall asleep. Some people think about their job title. I'm so high up in the hierarchy and I'm going to get promoted even more. So that is drawing from power. Some people pleasure. What is my next beautiful holiday? What is this delicious food that I'm going to eat tomorrow? Drawing from pleasure. And honor. All these people are saying good things about me. They're probably talking about me right now and praising me to the skies. And I get so much comfort from that. So that is drawing honor. Okay, that is getting honor, using honor to allow yourself to sleep. So 4 of that are substitutes from God. Okay, preferably you don't do that. Preferably before you sleep, you pray, you read the Bible and think about a Bible story. I think that will be a great way to draw from God and really let God fill the hole that He is meant to be. So, okay, if you are actually successful in pushing away wealth, power, pleasure, and honor, what will you experience? You experience a very stuck, empty hole. And you will beg and pray that God can come and fill that hole. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, and I guess it's best encapsulated in a poem by St. John of the Cross. Let's look at point 3, The Dark Night of the Soul. Okay, the Spanish poem, but you can read the English version. It's quite a short poem. You can read it. It's a very clear picture of the longing for God. It's a very love-sick kind of feeling. So St. John of the Cross and a lot of other saints have talked about that, like how when God first comes into your life, you are given a lot of spiritual consolations. You can hear the voice of God strongly and loudly, but towards the middle part or just shortly after that God sort of pulls away a little bit. Even if I don't give you these consolations, do you still love me? So at that time when you're like longing to hear God's voice and you can't hear, that is the dark night of the soul. And it's at that time is the test. Will you start to chase after wealth, pleasure, power, and honor as a substitute for God during the dark night? Very easy to do that. But my call for you is to endure the pain, endure the emptiness, so that God can come in. Maybe in more subtle ways. Won't be that giant spiritual consolations or rapture or what. No, may not be. But that is the best time to listen to God. Okay, let me move on to Christian detachment. I think about Nathanael at the fig tree, if you see point 5. So it is a very laconic passage referring to Nathanael, right, in the Bible. I'm just going to read it to you. How do you know me? Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you. So, The Chosen, which is this application, it's a multi-part series of Jesus' life, and I love it. So they expanded on this Nathanael story using their creative imagination. Okay, don't worry, it's not so creative. It's also guided by Bible scholars, so don't worry about that. you can watch it and you won't be led astray. Okay, so watch The Chosen. Okay, so what is the story that they expanded? So Nathaniel is an architect, and his dream was to build a beautiful synagogue where people will experience God in its architecture. He has drawn up these beautiful blueprints. So we entered this story in Nathaniel. He was just being fired because one of his projects, someone died. Someone was severely injured because of his poor decisions. So he was fired, and once you're fired because someone got injured in your project, basically nobody will want to hire you, right? Because who want to hire an architect that did that, right? It's just risky and unsafe. So his dreams were like blown to bits. So he brought his beautiful blueprint to his beautiful synagogue to a fig tree, and under that he cried and poured out his soul to God, like, where are you, Lord? Don't hide your face from me. I need some comfort right now. My dreams are at this very age, and I'm gonna let them die now, and I'm doing this all for you, God. Where are you? So at that time, no reply from God. He can't hear from God at all, and then he started a fire and started to burn that blueprint. And at that time, I almost felt like he had a longing that God would send rain to, oh, son, your dreams, I still, I endorse them. Don't burn up your blueprint. But no, that didn't happen. His blueprint was really burned to ashes, and he took the ashes in a very dramatic fashion. He sprinkled it on himself. I think it's a clear reference to Ash Wednesday. So, his dreams died, and as you all know, soon, a few days later, Jesus called him to be his disciples. And Jesus said, I saw you under the fig tree. You said, right? You want to build a temple for God. Let's start tomorrow. So yes, the heart song is correct. This desire to build a temple for God was real, but it's not the same way. Not in the so-called architecture that Nathaniel wanted to build, but it is to be a disciple of Jesus, which, in my opinion, is far better than that. So good on him. But for that to happen, he first had to die to self, to burn up the blueprints. So what are your blueprints? What are your attachments? What do you have to burn up to do God's will? Something to think about. Okay, so let's talk about that. Point 6, relinquishing one's will, dying to self, so that we can do God's will fully. So that also brings me to a story. Saint Teresa of Avila, she heard a very strong message from God to build a more a poorer cloister for the Carmelites, the Discalced Carmelites, of which she's the founder. The first time she started this project, it was slammed down, and she was detached. She let it go. Okay, but the second time that God raised it up, He also raised up other people to help her with the same desire to help her. It was a lot of suffering, a lot of opposition from the authorities, but she also managed to get the gumption to push it across. It did. Today, there are so many Discalced Carmelites all around the world. She's the founder. So yes, from her I learned that yes, it must be in God's time. Even though He gave you the project, it must be in God's time. So that's brilliant, and it offers me a lot of comfort. So okay, talking about Saint Teresa and Nathaniel, I also have an experience which is a Litops counseling. If you see point 7, my personal experience, I have a small private practice. So what happened was, I was doing my internship 1.5 years in a psychiatric clinic, and yes, the psychiatrist referred me a lot of clients that had financial difficulty but needed counseling. So I gave them free of charge counseling, and from them I got experience and managed to clock my hours to become a full-fledged counselor. But after I left, I graduated, I wanted to create a small private practice to continue seeing them, but it is not an easy journey, because I need to get clients, and preferably paying clients, so that I can draw a decent salary, right? But it's not always so. My income is not good. In fact, it's really poor, and a lot of times the temptation comes to shut down the private practice and get a job as a counselor elsewhere that can give me a salary. But that it means I have to leave all my existing clients, and that is heartbreaking for me. It's also in part also due to my abandonment schema. When I was young, I lived with my aunt up to age 6. Every Monday to Friday, I would live with her, and on the weekends, my parents will bring me home to live with them. So every Friday night where they had to drag me and my twin sister away was very painful for me, and I experienced that since young. This very strong abandonment from my attachment figure, which is my aunt, for 6 years. So to deal with this abandonment schema, I developed overcompensation. So I don't ever want to abandon my clients. So yes, I got attachment, so to speak, and thinking about closing down my lithops, thinking about leaving my clients, always pushed me to tears. But yet I think about Saint Teresa's story, and it draws strength and courage from it. Lithops might have to die, but it might rise again in God's timing. Okay, so next, holding on to an egg. So it is like holding on to an egg. I hold on to my projects, not too loosely such that they might fall, but also not too tightly such that I might crush it. I hold on to it as if it is God's will for me, but believe that whenever God says that it is not His will and it's time to shut it down, or it's no longer His will for me, I must be willing to drop it as well. I cannot grasp and destroy the egg. So that is my attitude right now, not too loose and not too tight. Okay, the last 2 points, agere contra. These are activities that we can do to get detachment. First one, agere contra, means to act against. Is coined by Saint Ignatius of Loyola, commonly brought out during Lent when we are trying to purge ourselves from attachments. But not only during Lent, it's relevant for any time of the year. So what is it? It's like to wish for the thing that you fear the most to happen. So in my case, it could be to wish for lithops to perish, lithops counseling to be shut down. Or if you are doing an assignment, to wish that you do not get high distinction. If you're trying to salvage a marriage that is failing, to wish that the marriage gets dissolved. If you are struggling with an unsafe pregnancy, a pregnancy that there's a lot of bleeding, to wish for a miscarriage to happen. You're battling cancer, to wish that you might succumb to cancer. Wow, yeah, it's very hard, it's very painful, very difficult. But it is to know that even if that happens, that which you fear the most happens, it's still okay because you still have Jesus. And even if you should perish from that cancer, you still have eternal life. And God alone is enough. That's agere contra. So St. John of the Cross, the one that I talked about, the dark night of the soul, right? He also had a very similar disposition. For example, if a priest came to him with a cross, like, I love to pray with this crucifix, Father, I love to pray with it. He said, give it to me. Yeah, give it to me. Even this crucifix is a substitution for God. You don't need this crucifix. You need to be detached from all these worldly reminders of God to really draw in, really to have that emptiness, that deep inner longing, that's empty hold. That is what we need to aim at, although it is a very uncomfortable state. Okay, the last one, Christian Meditation by Lawrence Freeman and his teacher, John Main. So we often think that meditation is limited to Buddhism, maybe Hinduism or yoga, but no, there's also Christian meditation under the tradition of John Main, the Maranatha. It's an apophatic kind of prayer, which means that it's same as I'll just teach you shortly. You sit down on a chair, both feet planted on the ground, your hands on your lap. You close your eyes and then you just draw your attention to the mantra, which is Maranatha. It means come Lord Jesus. You synchronize your breath to the mantra. Maranatha, Maranatha. 4 counts, okay? When your thought starts to drift to attachments from the past, how did I perform today at work? You pull it back gently to Maranatha. It starts to drift to anxieties of the future. What am I going to do tomorrow? What are my projects for the future? You draw it back to the mantra. Maranatha. So it's constant drawing back to the present, to this mantra Maranatha. So detachment from the past and from the future. Okay, so yes, Christian meditation, that is very helpful for cultivating detachment. And preferably 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. But you don't have to start like that. You can start like just 5 minutes before you sleep every day. It's very healthy and it helps to breed detachment. Okay, so highly recommend Ajare Contra. Highly recommend the Maranatha prayer. Thank you so much. I hope you like this video. If you enjoyed it and it's been helpful for you, kindly press subscribe, share it with your friends, and press like. Thank you so much and God bless.